cause that be natural.
Lady
I ain't
D.
looking tacky. I keep my game tactful.
Yo.
Yeah, I'm so nappy. Cause that be natural.
The infamous.
I ain't looking tacky cause I keep my game tactful.
I'm so pretty, I'm so fat, boo. I'm so natural, it's like it's a taboo. I'm so filthy, got the tattoo. Fucking these bitches like I own ragu. On my business with my platoon. Getting these minutes like I'm a typhoon. Y'all this jersey on that cartoon and I'm still on top.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Afros and Baby Hairs, and thank you so much for joining me in the reading room. Today we'll be doing book review number 9, which is on A Child of a Crackhead 2. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts and opinions on this book, then please stay tuned. I am not and do not encourage or promote this book to anyone who is under the age of 18. That is not my intention or motive. This book and video is for an adult audience. I am merely sharing my opinion of this book. If you are under the age of 18, please get your parents' consent and or supervision before reading this book or watching this video. Otherwise, keep it moving. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's get into this book review. So yeah guys, I'm going to start off by reading the back of the book to give you an idea of what this book is about. So this is A Child of a Crackhead by Shameek A. Speight. If you are just now tuning in, please go and watch book review number 8 to get the review on the first book. This is the second book. So the back of the book reads, with the notorious black eyes missing or assumed dead, Michael Jr. and Rachel try to live a normal life. Will Rachel be able to fight the urge of wanting to get high? Will Michael Jr. be able to fight the blood that is running through his veins? Or will he be succumbed to what he hates most, the demon he calls his father, or the life of being once a child of a crackhead? Break him. I want to let you guys know that book 2 begins about 2 years later. And we have a few new characters. We have Envy and Kemma. They're sisters. Envy is actually Michael's girlfriend, or as I like to call him, Black Ice Jr. But his name is Michael. And Envy is his girlfriend. Kemma is her sister. Then you will learn about Tiffany, Star, Yasmin, and Jesse when I get into the review. And then there's Crystal, which is Little Mike's friend, and Candace is her mother. Now into the meat. So the book starts off with a young dude and his girlfriend walking down the street, and all the men are making remarks about how fine dude's girl is. So dude basically pulls his girl closer to him. They continue to walk until they come to an alley. They turn into the alley, and then dude starts to go in on his girl, which leads him to beating her. Not long after the beating, Michael shows up with his machete in hand. He cuts off dude's arm, leg, and then dude's head. The rule in Michael's hood is never to abuse a woman unless you will have to answer to his machete. Michael kept dude's head as a souvenir to put alongside the others. Ice was in the shadows watching the whole ordeal. In his mind, he was thinking like father, like son. The next pointer is we find out that Black Ice gave Michael 2 of his properties. One as a spot to lay his head. The other was the trophy stash of all of his and his daddy's victims' body parts. And I think it really was 3 houses he gave him. Michael was reminiscing one day, so we learned a little bit more information that went on in his childhood. So before Michael became a teenager, his mother relapsed on crack, left him for a whole month with Janet. Remember, Janet is the cousin of the mother. They looked for her but couldn't find her. Finally, 12-year-old Michael decided to pack a machete and his mother's 380 and go look for her himself. He went to Brooklyn, close by the grandmother that he used to live with. He witnessed a young dude selling crack and abusing young girls and women who were addicted. Then he saw his mother, Rachel, who came to the young dude. However, dude had respect for her out of respect for Black Ice, Caesar, and Ace, so she didn't have to pay for crack. Anyway, Michael followed his mother to the crack house so that he would know where she was when he was ready to go get her. However, he had to go confront the dude that gave her the crack. He ended up cutting off dude's hand, and then he ended up shooting dude in the stomach. After he was done with dude, he went to go get his mother. Anyhow, once again, Black Ice was in the trenches. He witnessed his son's work again. He also finished off the young dude because dude didn't instantly die from Michael's assault. Rachel gets clean and turns holy, has been for 10 years. Now Rachel and Janet are putting holy water on Michael whenever he comes home and reminds him that he's just like his father. Now, I did let you guys know that Michael has a girlfriend who is Envy. They've been together for 2 years. So, because the mother and Janet keep telling him he's like his dad and putting holy water on him and praying for him every time he shows up at their house, he decides that he wants to move into one of the houses that his father gave him. He's not moving into the trophy house. All right, so the next pointer is Black Ice and his men kidnapped 4 girls who happened to be drug counselors. They were drunk at a corner store hanging out with their boyfriends. The boyfriends were killed, and the girls were thrown in a van and taken to Black Ice's warehouse. He made them smoke crack for 3 hours straight, then allowed his men to rape them. One of the girls ended up getting her head sliced off because she refused to smoke crack when they first got there. Michael had a community center specifically for abused women on drugs, teens, and young children to have a place to go for food and somewhere to sleep. Those that were kidnapped actually worked at Michael's community center as drug counselors. Pointer is a little boy at the community center named Mike, who loves to spend time with Michael because he feels they connect, has been getting beat while in foster care and ended up killing his foster mother with shattered glass in her crack pipe because she beat him so bad. However, he refuses to go back to foster care. So Michael decides to take him home to stay with him and Envy. And Mike is actually Michael's little brother, but they don't know this right now. But Mike is actually Roxy's son. When Roxy died, she still ended up having a son that she did name before she left the earth. And she named him Michael as well. So in the book, they call him Mike, and the older brother is Michael. Before the boys could make it to the car to leave for the day, Pookie, the cousin that used to pee in the bed in the last book, the cousin that used to pee in the bed when they were little, had his goons to shoot at Michael. Little Mike ran and hid, but eventually Pookie got to Michael, ended up peeing all over dude. However, little Mike jumped on his back, stabbing him in the ear with the pocket knife, and Michael ended up cutting off Pookie's penis head. So Pookie ended up laying in his own blood. Michael and little Mike left. However, some old dude scooped up Pookie before the cops got there. Of course, Michael had to take the penis head to the trophy house. However, Mike was with him. He had never taken anyone to that house and hoped that little Mike didn't remember. Tiffany was being seduced by Black Ice, even though he had her locked in his room for 2 months. She enjoyed the sex, however, she would miss her family and would remember that Black Ice killed her boyfriend and her homegirl, and that he still had Star and Yasmin. So she would cry. Black Ice would catch her crying and beat her and call her Roxy. Also, Tiffany is pregnant. She sees her belly bump growing. She also musters up the courage to ask Black Ice why he calls her Roxy and why did he kidnap her and her friends. Yes, Michael and Envy end up taking Mike shopping for clothes and then to breakfast. Envy told him she called ACS and that he could stay with them as long as the social worker could come by and see their home. They took Mike to go see Rachel, Michael's mother, and she knew something was up when she saw Mike. She told Michael and Envy to follow her to the basement where she had these personalized and rare guns to give them. She was talking about she had a dream that the devil was coming for them, and she had seen the signs, and that little boy Mike was one of them. She also told them to be careful around that boy. Michael took the guns his mom gave him, but they were leaving because he didn't want to hear what his mom was talking about. When they made it back to Michael's house, the social worker was there waiting to view the home, and she had paperwork for them to sign. They were able to keep Mike as long as the social worker could come by and visit monthly. Later, a couple of detectives showed up. One detective was Detective Roy's son, Detective Roy Jr., who seemed determined to take down Michael just as bad as his dad wanted to take down Black Ice. Michael ended up asking them to leave after they questioned him about the shootings that took place around the community center and about all the bodies that were found with missing limbs around the city. Michael also threatened their jobs because he knew people in high places. Caesar didn't die in the barrel Black Ice dumped into the Coney Island Ocean. Some cops and divers saved him. He was the old man that scooped up Pookie after Michael and Little Mike sliced and diced him. They were planning to kill Michael so that Black Ice would show up so that Caesar could get his revenge. Tiffany was planning on her escape from the warehouse where her and her girls were being held captive. She had talked to Star and Yasmin about escaping after Black Ice finally let her see them. They were pregnant and strung out on crack. However, they listened as she talked about the escape and told them that Black Ice was doing what Black Ice was doing and why. So I don't think I wrote in here exactly what he was doing. His whole plan was to create a new generation of crackheads, get them all pregnant so the babies will be on crack, and that will create another generation of crackheads. And all of these crackheads are supposed to make him rich. Plan went horribly wrong. She remembered all of the codes to the doors to escape. When she made it to the room where her friends and the other girls were being kept, she and her friend Star had to use Star's chain on her leg to choke the guard that was raping Yasmin. They ended up breaking his neck. Tiffany grabbed his keys and gun and then unchained her friend as well as two other girls. They didn't have time to unchain them all. Yasmin was really quiet until they were trying to find the exit door. She spoke up to tell them which door to go out of. When the girls opened the door and went in, Yasmin locked them in. The room was pitch black and they could hear laughter, and then one of the girls was dragged off and they could hear her flesh being ripped from her body. They were in a room full of hyenas. Tiffany used the gun and began to shoot and kill the hyenas. The next thing you know, they heard Black Ice's voice saying, "You killed my hyenas." He began to beat them with a baseball bat until they were out cold. He chained them and hung them on a wall. You will have to read the book to find out what happened next because I can't talk about that. No. Emmy got Michael's paperwork from the social worker and found out that Mike was Black Ice's son. And knows now that Mike and Michael were brothers, which explained why they looked alike and act similar. When she went to tell him, Michael, about the information, he was in the shower and one thing led to another, so he didn't find out about Mike being his brother. However, he did find his brother in the bathroom with him and Envy, and two gunmen were with him. But Envy and Michael had guns in the shower, and little Mike kept his knife on him at all times. Either way, the gunmen ended up dead. They were sent by Pookie and Caesar. Michael, Mike, and Envy had to move, but Envy wanted to go to her sister's first to clear her head while shopping. She told her sister about her situation and also told her she was pregnant. Meanwhile, Mike and Michael went to the community center. Michael met a little girl by the name of Crystal. They hit it off really well. Mike and Michael ended up moving into another one of Black Ice's properties. Michael was also becoming suspicious about the large amount of teenage girls addicted to crack coming into the community center pregnant. Things are getting worse for Tiffany, Star, and Yasmin. They are hanging on the wall with the hyenas They are hanging on the wall in the room with the hyenas in it. Black Ice is thinking of expanding his business to other cities, and he is planning on coming after his son, Michael. Envy finally came back from her sister's house, and she and the boys went shopping for the new house. Later, they decided to have dinner, but because Envy's shoes didn't match her outfit to the T, they had to go by the old house to get her other shoes. Little did they know, Pookie and Caesar and their gunmen were watching the house. They didn't attack them there, but decided to follow them to the mall where they were having dinner. The plan was to follow them to their new residence because too many people and cars were in the mall's parking lot. But Pookie was getting madder and madder and decided to jump out then and there. Let's just say that this was a bad idea and didn't end well for Pookie and a lot of his men. Michael, Mike, and Envy were an army all by themselves, especially with those high-tech guns Michael's mother gave them. Somehow Caesar ended up with Mike's paperwork and found out that Mike was Black Ice's son too. Later that night, Envy told Michael she was pregnant, which little Mike overheard and made him feel some type of way. However, he didn't hear the last part where Envy told Michael that Mike was his half brother. Now that Caesar had this new info about Mike, his plan changed to wanting to take out both of Black Ice's sons. Caesar's place got attacked by seems like Black Ice and his men. All of Caesar's men were killed, and the young crackhead girl was shot but was still alive. They snatched her and threw her in the black van. Caesar was basically kidnapped. I think Black Ice got wind that Caesar was going after his son. Michael, Envy, and Mike went to Rachel's and Janet's church mainly because they needed new weapons. When they made it to Rachel's house, she told them that God shows her things. She knew that Black Ice had given Michael houses and money and knew that that's how he started the community center. She knew that Mike was Black Ice's son and that he was very dangerous because he is actually more like Black Ice. She also knew that Envy was pregnant. She warned them about Mike, saying that he was going to bring them pain. Michael really didn't want to listen, but Envy took it all in. Later, they decided they wanted to adopt Mike and told him that's what they were going to do. Michael still hasn't revealed to Mike anything about them being brothers, mainly because he knows Mike will have questions like why wasn't he there for him while he was in foster care, being abused. However, Michael didn't even know he existed, yet still not ready to answer those type of questions. Dman has turned into a true crackhead. She is smoking by her own free will. When Black Ice does release them to eat and smoke, all three girls are pregnant, but only Yasmin doesn't love her baby growing inside of her. Neither Yasmin nor Star know who the father is of their babies because they were constantly raped by Black Ice's men. Tiffany knows for sure that Black Ice is her child's father because he actually loves Tiffany because she reminds him of Roxy. And he does not allow his men to touch her. Was definitely taken by Black Ice. He told Black Ice that he was trying to get to Michael so that Black Ice would come out of hiding. He thought Black Ice would be a withered crackhead by now, but Black Ice was far from that. He has control over his crack addiction. He works out every day and he takes steroids, all because he wants to be ready for his son Michael. Anyway, he has Caesar strapped to a chair in chains, and every 3 days he is cutting off a limb and feeding it to the hyena to eat, and Caesar has to sit there and watch. First off was one of his legs. Black Ice cut off at the knee. He burned the wound to keep Caesar from bleeding to death because he wanted him to watch the hyena eat his limbs. Plus, he wanted him to die a slow, agonizing death. Next, Detective Roy has been suspended but ended up coming to Michael's festival to give threats. He also was escorted off the premises when he tried to punch Michael. However, instead of him leaving and going home, he decided to tell Michael after the festival was over. He wanted both Black Ice and Michael and was sure Michael would lead him to Black Ice. Caesar ended up getting an arm cut off after 3 days of suffering from the leg amputation and not having food, water, or medical care. just cocaine pumped into his system. Once again, he had to watch the hyena eat his arm and then have the wound burned with a blazing hot machete. After Black Ice was done with Caesar, he was eager to face his son, especially after seeing on the news about the festival and everyone praising Michael on being and doing the opposite of his father. Black Ice's men had followed Envy and her sister all day as they shopped. Then they made their move as soon as the girls got back to Kima's house. Black Ice had ordered them to kidnap Envy, however, they never expected the girls to be armed. The girls killed some of the gunmen. Kima was badly beaten, but she was left alive. Envy ended up shooting Black Ice's right-hand man twice in the foot, but they still ended up gassing her and throwing her into the van. She ended up chained to the wall where Tiffany Star and Yasmin were. Black Ice made her smoke crack as well and was about to have sex with her until she told him she was pregnant with his grandson. He settled for fellatio. However, he couldn't climb it, so he raped Star instead. He was so animalistic that she began to bleed because there was so much pain, and she felt like he actually did some damage to her baby growing inside of her. Michael was calling Envy's phone as him and little Mike were headed home. He found it strange that Envy hadn't called him all day and wasn't answering when they had a rule to answer the phone no matter what. Finally, Kima called him to let him know that these men and Black Ice had attacked them, beaten her, and taken Envy. She told him that she was in the hospital but didn't know where they took Envy. However, one of the gunmen was left behind who got shot in the back, and he was at the same hospital. Michael took Mike back to the community center, but Mike wanted to know what was wrong and why Michael didn't want him to come along. He was saddened that he couldn't go. Michael went to the hospital and talked with Kima. Then went home, got a nurse's scrub set and some syringes filled with drugs. He ended up shooting the drugs in a cop guarding the gunman's room, and then did the same to the gunman so that he could get him out of the hospital. Michael ended up basically nailing dude to a wall in the trophy house, in the freezer room. He stuck different sized needles in the man all night trying to get answers out of him. Dude eventually died, and Michael still didn't get the location of where Envy was being held. Meanwhile, Envy Star, Tiffany, and Jasmine planned another escape. However, it was still a bloodbath and explosion. Envy still had weapons strapped to her, and they were able to get more from some of the guards they killed. In the end, there was only Envy and Tiffany that escaped. Black Ice went to torture Caesar some more. However, Caesar wanted to make a deal with Black Ice, being that he had info on his younger son. He gave Black Ice the info in hopes that Black Ice would kill him quickly instead of the torture he was putting him through. However, once Black Ice got the info, he reneged on the deal and planned on going to get his youngest son because he knew right where to find him. He ended up cutting off another one of Caesar's limbs and feeding it to the hyena. Then he gathered a few of his men that were left and took the last of his vans that were left since the shootout with the girls and headed for the community center to get his youngest son because he knew that would definitely get Michael to come to him. When he got to the community center, he gave orders for them to destroy everything in sight until they found his son. And he and his gunmen did just that, cutting off heads and limbs, shooting people until he grabs Crystal Mom, and that's when Mike came to attack. He didn't want this man to hurt Crystal's mother, but as soon as Black Ice and Mike's eyes met, Mike knew he belonged to him. Black Ice killed Crystal's mom anyway, and Crystal was injured somehow. And by the time Michael, Envy, and Tiffany got to the center, the place was a hot mess. Police and ambulances were everywhere, and body after body was being wheeled out on stretchers and in body bags. Envy was able to talk to Crystal before they closed the door to her ambulance, and she told them basically that Black Ice killed her mother and took Mike. Later, after Michael, Envy, and Tiffany went back to the house, Black Ice called and threatened Michael. Also told him he would trade Tiffany for Mike. Black Ice wasted no time testing Mike. However, young Mike refused to kill or hurt a woman just like Michael had taught him, but had no problem finishing off Caesar or putting fear in the hyena. Michael began putting a plan together to go after his father, and he called the one person who hated him more than anybody, Detective Roy Jr., who was more than happy to assist after cracking jokes about Michael's community center. He knew about that from the news report. The cops ended up at the warehouse where Michael told them to meet. On the way there, Michael got a call from Black Ice telling them there was a change in plans and now they had to meet at a different spot. When Michael tried to tell Detective Roy about the change of plans, he didn't believe him and thought that Michael was just trying to protect Black Ice. So he and his men went to the warehouse anyway. They found about 20 girls chained to the wall and a few of Black Ice's men placing time bombs throughout the warehouse. In less than 10 seconds, the warehouse blew up. Detective Roy jumped out of a window just in the nick of time, but everyone else, including his men, blew up inside of the warehouse. Meanwhile, Michael, Envy, and Tiffany went to meet Black Ice. Mike and Black Ice's goons upstate. They started to make the transaction, and that's when it was revealed that Mike wanted to stay with his real father. Plus, he was upset at Michael and Envy for leaving him in the community center when they promised they would never leave him. Either way, there was some gunplay. Then Black Ice called Michael out to fight like men. They both had their machetes. Michael eventually got the best of his dad. However, they both were stabbed up pretty badly. Right when Michael was about to finish off Black Ice, Mike shot Michael, letting him know that he wasn't going to let him kill his father. Before Michael passed out, he tried to tell Mike that they were brothers and that Black Ice killed his mother, but Mike had blacked out. Envy was trying to talk to him too. However, she ended up shooting him but had no intentions of killing him. She checked to make sure he was still alive before she went to finish off Black Ice, but soon discovered Black Ice had disappeared once again. So she was trying to shoot Mike to keep him from shooting Michael. So that's why Mike got shot as well. On into 3, where it was about 3 months later, Michael was now healing from his wounds and Mike was in a coma. They were hoping this was the day that Mike woke up. They began to walk to Mike's room and spotted a woman who appeared to be Janet, dressed in her Sunday's best with a large church hat on, but Michael thought his eyes was playing tricks on him. They got to Mike's room, and to their surprise, Black Ice was standing over Mike, rubbing his son's head. Then he pulled out his gun, and so did Michael and Envy. So that's the end. I think that Black Ice is some kind of deranged. I couldn't imagine living in fear of my own father for years and years. I think Envy is a true ride or die. I think they are holding on to Tiffany so tight because she is carrying Black Ice's seed, which will be Michael's and Mike's sibling. I think Janet is plotting to take out Black Ice and all his seeds, even Michael, her cousin. I also think Mike is going to be the worst of them all, just like Rachel warned them. Even if Michael and Envy do finish off Black Ice, Mike is going to be a problem because not only will he know that they killed his father, he will remember that Envy shot him, and in his mind, that means she never loved him and that she was trying to kill him. I think he will also hurt their baby as well as Tiffany's baby. I also think this book was a lot. Those women and girls being caged and drugged, the men who were a part of Black Ice's sick agenda, and all the people who were left to live with the thoughts of Black Ice's abuse and torture for the remainder of their lives. That's crazy. It's also 10 years later, and Rachel and Janet are still in fear of him as if it all happened yesterday. All of this is in the name of drugs and money. Then such a deranged man out here making babies, and the children turning out to be even worse. It's sad, really. Even though the book is fiction, I can't help but to think that there are really situations like this happening, especially in the inner cities, and especially with demons and demonic spirits being passed down in the DNA as well as in the muscle memory. It's a lot to think about, but we see glimpses of this every day, where there are families with members that keep going to jail for the exact same crimes or very similar crimes, same instincts and same nature. This series is crazy, but sex trafficking, human trafficking, and the drug game are real things. If this series doesn't do anything else, it teaches women especially to watch their surroundings and at least try to protect themselves. I will be starting on book 3 soon. However, if you read this book, tell me your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't read it but watch this review, let me know what you think. So those are my thoughts on it. So anyway, guys, I do want to thank you all for tuning in today. I really appreciate your time and energy. I hope to see you guys on the next video. Peace and love. And as always,
DJ Mike C on the track.
Cause that be natural.
Lady D.
Ain't looking tacky. I keep my game tactful.
Yo,
Yeah, I'm so nappy. Cause that be natural.
The infamous.
Ain't looking tacky. Cause I keep my game tactful.
I'm so pretty, I'm so faboo, I'm so natural, it's like it's a taboo. I'm so filthy, got the tattoo, fucking these bitches like I own ragu. On my business with my platoon, getting these minutes like I'm a typhoon. Y'all is children on that cartoon, and I'm sitting on top of these buffoons. I'm so nappy, I'm so nappy. All these dudes that wanna get at me, I'm so cultured and I'm happy. Jealous witches wanna combat me, cause I'm comfortable in my skin. End of the day, you lose, I win. I'm so profitable in my ends, don't care if I make or lose a few friends. And I look like $1 trillion. Lady D won a lotto, cause in the Lord I trust. And beauty is the motto. Naturally thick in the butt, I'm Billy Blanks on the Tabo. Edges a little rough, just pretend I'm from Morocco. Or get all up in my hair, cause I let my locks grow naturally. My curls popping everywhere, I'm maximizing on this natural thing. Like it or not, I don't care. You clowns ain't about to worry me, cause I does this for myself, and I'm repping for my ancestry.